Innovation, in my sort of, the way I think about it in simple terms, is just, it's a better way of doing things. And on one spectrum, it's like 1% improvement over time. And then on the far other end of the spectrum, it's what Clayton Christensen sort of coined disruptive innovation, where industries get destroyed and newcomers come in to create even more value than before. So innovation is more about culture and the way you work and the way you think about solving problems. So every little thing that we think about could be innovation depending on how you define it. There's parts of our business that have to adhere to the policies of obviously safety, risk aversion, maintaining, everything has to be business case. But that works in the traditional part of the business. In our world, none of that stuff really works. It's about agility, it's about velocity, it's about experimentation, it's about continually trying new things, because we're not competing with the other businesses in our area. If we are, all we're doing is making 1% improvements here. It's the threat that there's going to be a startup that models something better than we're doing today. Right? So the one thing we've learned is to set a bar that isn't what we're thinking about in the next year or two. It's what could this look like in 3 or 4 or 5 years? And the only way to do that is have an experimentation mindset. So the challenges are more on the cultural challenges as opposed to, can we solve this with technology?
What is the right way to grow your business and ensure you've got the great team that can build this global thing?
If you're someone that's talented in AI or machine learning or digital marketing or product management or design thinking, your immediate reaction isn't, I can't wait to go work for an airline. You may want to work for a startup, you want to maybe work for the VC community, or you may want to work for the tech giants, but a traditional business isn't what you're naturally drawn to. And that's a challenge we have to think about, because to a certain extent, the more successful you are as a traditional incumbent, there's this built-in arrogance that says, you're lucky that you should be working for us. And I try to destroy that notion to say, no, that's the old way of thinking about talent, right? So how do you create an environment that mimics what the working world will look like to want talent to come to you? And I think that's been sort of the area that I've spent a lot of time focused on, is how do I get people that used to work at Snapchat, Google, or Facebook, or Uber to come want to work for us? And it's never been because we have the technology horsepower that's going to compete with the Amazons of the world. It's because we're trying to create a culture that will want them to come work for us. And that's sort of the biggest challenge, is how do you announce to people that it's the culture that you've now built, it's the reason why people are going to want to work for you. I was just telling John that I just spent my Monday morning at a executive roundtable at the Harvard Business School, and there was about 8 of us talking about talent for like 30 minutes, and that's their biggest challenge too. So it isn't a Canadian, a Winnipeg, Manitoba challenge. There are companies, the biggest names you can think about in the world, like Corning and Philips, that have the exact same challenges we do, which is they can't recruit the talent because in the past, if you worked in automotive, you worked for other automotive companies. Today, talent is so fluid that you can work in an industry and be good at, let's say, machine learning and automotive, and then suddenly you can go work in retail. So now you're competing across industries in a way that you weren't before. That makes it extra challenging. But I don't think the challenge is unique to Winnipeg and Manitoba. I think it's a global issue that we have now, where the talent pool just isn't there to feed the need that all these companies are looking for, which is a similar talent pool. I think one of the things that we often think as leaders, that we have to be courageous all the time. You always have to have this, unemotional aspect to you where you're sort of invincible. And the story I tell, just a few weeks ago, I was having a one-on-one with someone senior on my team, and you do the usual pleasantries. How are things? Things are great. Things are busy. And then you go back and forth. And someone asked me how I was doing, and I started off by saying, I'm doing really great. And then I said, actually, I'm not. I'm going through a very challenging time in my life right now, and I'm not doing really well. And I opened up saying, here are the things that I'm really affected by. And I think I even may have sort of started tearing up on the call. And instead of sort of thinking I was feeling weak, which I did feel at the time, the person on the other side said, I think it takes a lot of strength for you to tell someone that things aren't even going well. And interestingly, part of that is, that's what I think brings people closer together. As opposed to having a barrier of thinking that being strong all the time is a good thing, being vulnerable and open and showing people that there's a human side of you as well, I think has got to be the next version of leadership. And, well, thank you. And during that conversation, there was a woman on my team that approached me and said, I'm being headhunted for a job that's more senior than the role I have now. And I said to her, great, let's talk about that. And we walked through the opportunity that she had presented to herself. And she's one of the most talented people on my team, and I would never want to lose her. And I gave her the pros and cons of why she should take the job or not take the job. And she wrote me a note saying, that was incredible that I was able to come to you to talk about their job outside the company and you were still supportive of me no matter what.
This seemed like an unusual situation.
And she said it was unusual. She said
Yeah.
she's never had that before. And the nicest note she sent me after, she goes, I think that's what separates the good leaders from the great ones, is that I can come to you with something that may seem like a conflict of interest. And she goes, it was just amazing that you cared no matter what was going to be my final decision. Anyway, she decided to stay, which was great. But that wasn't even the outcome. I said to her after, I think the only thing that my legacy will be isn't the products we build, it's how great all of you become leaders after we've spent our time together.